Why did Mia already feel invisible before anyone ever spoke her name? She sat with her back straight because she'd learned early that posture could substitute for confidence when confidence hadn't arrived yet. The metal chair pressed into her spine, but she didn't shift. Shifting invited attention. Attention invited questions. And tonight, questions were dangerous. The multi-purpose room smelled like old coffee and floor wax. Parents clustered in familiar groups, their laughter sharp and practiced. Mia watched them the way you watched weather rolling in, aware it could turn without warning. She smoothed the edge of her folder again. Her mother wasn't late often, but when she was, it always felt longer than it should. The teacher smiled too much, the kind of smile that meant she was nervous about control. Names were called, parents waved, applause followed presence, not effort. Mia noticed that. She always did. When her turn came, she stood because sitting would look like weakness. Her voice stayed steady because she'd practiced it that way. "My mom's running late," she said. A pause, then because honesty mattered. "She's a Navy SEAL." The room changed temperature. Not disbelief yet, something worse, amusement. It started softly, a chuckle, a sideways glance, then a laugh that didn't bother hiding itself. Mia felt her shoulders tighten, but she didn't retreat. Her mother had taught her that truth didn't need volume, it just needed time. But time didn't help tonight. The whispers grew teeth. Adults forgot they were being watched by children who learned how to behave from every careless word. A woman tilted her head, smiling thinly. Someone muttered something about movies. Someone else said there was no such thing. Mia sat back down slowly. She didn't argue, she didn't explain. She just waited. Because her mother always came. The break came soon after. A hallway, fluorescent lights, a bench beneath an anti-bullying poster that felt like a joke someone forgot to laugh at. Mia chose that bench because it was quiet, because it was away from eyes, because she believed wrongly that space meant safety. Footsteps approached with confidence that didn't belong to them. They didn't start cruel, they started casual. That was worse. Questions disguised as jokes, jokes sharpened into challenges, a folder knocked loose, papers scattered. Laughter followed gravity like it always did. Mia knelt to gather her things. She focused on the task, on the familiar comfort of order, on not crying. Crying meant they won something. The kick came when she wasn't looking. Not hard enough to break anything, just enough to mark her. Pain bloomed, not sharp, heavy, humiliating. She inhaled, held it, let it out quietly. "Please," she said, not weak, just honest. Someone raised a phone. That was when the hallway shifted. Not loud, not dramatic, just different. A door opened at the far end. Mia felt it before she saw it. The air changed, the way it does before a storm breaks or something finally stops pretending. Her mother stood there. No uniform, no insignia, just stillness. Rowan Calder saw her daughter first, not the people around her, not the chaos, just the way Mia held herself smaller than she should have needed to. She crossed the distance without hurry, kneeling, one hand on Mia's shoulder, firm, real. "You okay?" she asked. Mia nodded, barely. Rowan stood. And the room understood, too late, that this wasn't a woman who needed to raise her voice to be heard. What kind of power doesn't announce itself, and why is it the most dangerous kind? Rowan didn't ask who they were, she asked what they'd done. Silence answered first. She didn't fill it. People who relied on intimidation always mistook calm for uncertainty. That mistake had followed Rowan through training, through deployments, through rooms where men twice her size underestimated her right up until the moment they couldn't anymore. She didn't threaten, she didn't posture, she simply waited. Someone tried to explain, someone else minimized, a hand reached out where it shouldn't have. Rowan moved. Efficiently, cleanly, without emotion. A body met lockers, breath left lungs, reality recalibrated. She stepped back immediately. No follow-through, no escalation. I asked a question, she said evenly. Who touched my daughter? The truth surfaced then. It always did. She identified herself only when it mattered. Rank spoken without pride. Service without ornament. Not for dominance, for clarity. The hallway emptied of arrogance fast. Administrators arrived. Witnesses found courage. Phones were deleted. Words were recorded. Rowan stayed close to Mia, always within reach, always grounded. She never once raised her voice. That mattered more than anything. Why does apology feel heavier when it's forced to be honest? The staff room smelled like discomfort. Adults sat smaller than they had earlier. The balance had shifted and everyone felt it. Rowan stood, not because she needed to loom, but because sitting would have implied negotiation. She let them speak. Then she corrected them. Not with anger, with truth. You don't get to decide whose child deserves safety, she said. You don't get to test truth with cruelty. And you don't need to know who a child belongs to before treating them like they matter. Mia listened quietly, absorbing, learning something more important than defense. She learned that silence could be strength, that dignity didn't beg, that justice didn't shout. When they left the building, dusk had settled. The world felt calmer than it had any right to be. In the car, Mia asked the only question that mattered. Did I do something wrong? Rowan answered without hesitation. No. That answer would stay with her longer than anything else that night. Sometimes strength doesn't fight. Sometimes it simply refuses to bend. And sometimes, the most powerful lesson a child ever learns is this. Truth doesn't need permission. Dignity doesn't announce itself. And silence, when chosen, can be louder than force. Why did the room suddenly feel smaller? The moment Rowan called her straightened her spine. No one could have explained it out loud. Not the parents frozen mid-breath. Not the teenagers who suddenly forgot how brave they'd been seconds earlier. Not even Mia, who felt it in her chest before she understood it with her mind. The hallway hadn't changed shape, but the rules inside it had. Rowan didn't rush. That was the first thing that unsettled them. She moved like someone who had learned long ago that urgency was a tool, not a habit. Her eyes took in everything without darting. The lockers, the phones, the way one man's shoulders were squared too aggressively, the way another woman's laugh had died halfway through her throat. She crouched again beside Mia, close enough that her daughter could feel her warmth. Look at me, Rowan said quietly. Mia lifted her eyes. They were glassy but steady. She nodded once, like she was confirming a mission brief only she could hear. Breathe, Rowan said. Mia did. Rowan's thumb brushed the inside of Mia's wrist, counting the pulse. Fast, not panic, just alert, survivable. Rowan stood. That single motion pulled every gaze toward her like gravity. Even the fluorescent lights seemed harsher now, buzzing louder, like the building itself was aware it had missed something important earlier. Who touched my child? Rowan asked. The words were calm, not rehearsed, not emotional, the kind of calm that didn't ask for permission to exist. No one answered. That silence wasn't defiance. It was confusion. People who relied on noise didn't know what to do when it vanished. A man cleared his throat. He stepped forward half a pace, chest out, voice wrapped in practiced authority. Let's not blow this out of proportion, he said. Kids' roughhouse happens all the time. Rowan looked at him the way surgeons looked at x-rays. Not angry, assessing. Did you touch my child? She asked again. He hesitated, just long enough. No, he said, but... Rowan didn't let him finish. Not rudely, simply by continuing. Then you're not the one I'm asking. The words landed harder than shouting would have. The teenage boy shifted his weight. His phone felt heavier in his hand now, like it had gained mass from guilt alone. He glanced at his parents, silently asking for guidance they no longer seemed able to give. Rowan noticed. She always noticed. You, she said, turning slightly, not pointing, just aligning her body with his. Did you touch her? The boy swallowed. She bumped into me, he muttered. Rowan knelt again, slow, controlled. She gently rolled up the cuff of Mia's jeans. The mark was already darkening, a clean line, too precise to be accidental. Rowan didn't react. She didn't need to. She stood. That's a shoe tread, she said. That means intent. Someone scoffed. Someone else laughed nervously, trying to dilute the moment. Rowan turned her head just enough to acknowledge the sound. Stop, she said. One word, no volume, no threat. It worked. The man who'd spoken earlier stepped closer, trying to reclaim control with proximity. It was a mistake born of habit, of environments where size and rank usually solved problems. Ma'am, he said, voice tightening, you need to calm down. Rowan tilted her head slightly. Are you confusing my calm with weakness? She asked. That was the moment the hallway truly shifted. Not because of what she said, but because of how she said it. No anger, no shaking, just certainty. He reached out, not a grab, not yet. Just a hand brushing her arm, meant to guide, to dominate space. Rowan moved. It wasn't dramatic. There was no flourish, no wasted motion. Just leverage applied at the right angle, weight redirected, balance stolen before he knew he'd lost it. His back hit the lockers with a hollow thud. Air left his lungs in a sound that wasn't pain, it was surprise. Gasps followed. Rowan stepped back immediately, hands open, non-threatening. The action was finished before anyone fully processed it. She hadn't attacked him. She corrected him. The teenage girl stumbled backward, eyes wide now. The laughter was gone, so was the certainty. Rowan didn't pursue, didn't loom. She simply stood between them and her daughter. Enough, she said. Someone whispered, who is she? Rowan answered without raising her voice. Lieutenant Commander Rowan Calder, she said. United States Navy. The words didn't end there, but she let them hang just long enough. SEAL, she finished. That silence was different from the first. This one carried weight. Recognition moved through the group like a delayed shockwave. Not awe, something closer to shame. The teacher arrived then, breathless, clipboard clutched too tightly. What's going on? She asked. Rowan didn't turn. My daughter was bullied, she said. She was struck. She was filmed. And it happened because adults in this building chose mockery over responsibility. A pause. Handle it, Rowan added. The teacher swallowed and nodded. She didn't argue. She didn't question. Authority had redefined itself in front of her. As statements were taken and voices lowered, Rowan stayed close to Mia, always within reach, a silent wall. Mia watched everything, the way adults shrank, the way truth reorganized a room when it was finally allowed to breathe. She felt something unfamiliar settle in her chest. Pride. Not loud, not boastful, quiet, solid. Later in the staff room, apologies were offered like obligations. Some were sincere, most were not. Rowan listened without interruption. Then she spoke. You don't apologize to me, she said evenly. You apologize to her. They did. Mia accepted them without expression. She didn't need their remorse. She'd already learned something more valuable. On the drive home, the sky was deep blue, streetlights flickering on like distant stars. Mia stared out the window for a long time before she spoke. They didn't believe me, she said. Rowan nodded, no. Even before I said anything else. Yes. Why? Rowan thought carefully before answering. Because some people need the world to be smaller than it is, she said, and the truth threatens that. Mia considered this. Was I stupid for saying it? She asked. Rowan pulled to a stoplight and looked at her daughter fully. "No," she said, "you were brave." The words settled between them, heavy, earned. Mia nodded slowly. Outside, the light turned green. They drove on, not triumphant, not broken. Just steady. And somewhere deep inside Mia, something had shifted. She would never confuse silence with helplessness again. And she would never doubt that the truth, even when mocked, was worth standing by. Sometimes strength doesn't arrive with noise. Sometimes it walks in late, surveys the damage, and restores order without asking for applause. And sometimes a child learns that dignity isn't inherited. It's taught quietly by example. What does a child carry home after the noise fades, when the room is quiet, but the memory is? Mia didn't speak as the car rolled through the darkened streets. Streetlights passed in steady intervals, briefly illuminating her reflection in the window before letting it disappear again. She watched herself come and go like that, unsure which version was real. The girl who'd been kicked on a cold tile floor, or the one who'd watched grown adults lose their certainty in front of her mother. Rowan kept both hands on the wheel. Her posture hadn't changed since they left the school. Controlled, alert, but inside something hadn't settled yet. Silence in the car wasn't uncomfortable. It was familiar. They'd shared silence like this before, after long days, after missed birthdays, after phone calls that came too late or ended too soon. Silence didn't mean distance between them. It meant space to breathe. Mia shifted slightly, her shin throbbing now that adrenaline had loosened its grip. She pressed her fingers into her folder, feeling the faint ridge where the papers had been creased, proof that the moment had been real. "Mom," she said quietly. Rowan glanced over for half a second, then back to the road. "Yeah." "Did you hurt him?" Rowan exhaled slowly. "No." "But he hit the lockers." "Yes." Mia considered that. Then how is that not hurting him? Rowan slowed at a stop sign. She chose her words the way she chose movements, deliberately. "I stopped him from hurting you again," she said. "Sometimes that means someone else loses balance. That's not the same as wanting to hurt them." Mia nodded, but the thought lingered. They pulled into their driveway. The house was dark except for the porch light Rowan always left on. Habit, signal, home. Inside, Rowan grabbed the ice pack from the freezer without being asked. She knelt in front of Mia on the couch, gently placing it against her shin. "Too cold?" she asked. Mia shook her head. Rowan's hands were steady, but Mia noticed the way her jaw tightened just slightly. A tell, one she'd learned over years of watching her mother prepare for things she wasn't supposed to ask about. "Were you scared?" Mia asked. Rowan paused. "Not for me," she said, "for you." Mia swallowed. "I didn't cry," she said quickly, not as a boast, as a question. Rowan met her eyes. "You don't owe anyone control over how you feel." "But they wanted me to." "Yes. And I didn't." Rowan nodded. "Good." That night Mia lay awake longer than usual. The house made its normal sounds. Pipes, wind, the quiet creak of settling wood. But her mind replayed the hallway again and again, not the kick but the moment right before it, the choice she hadn't known she was making. She stayed honest. That mattered. The next morning came too fast. School always did after nights like that. Mia stood in front of the mirror longer than usual, adjusting her braid. Her shin ached dully, yellow and blue already blooming beneath the skin. She pulled her jeans down just enough to cover it. Rowan watched from the doorway. "You don't have to go today," she said. Mia shook her head. "I do." Rowan nodded. No argument, respect. At school, the air felt different. Not hostile, just cautious. Eyes followed her in the hallway. Whispers stopped when she passed. Some kids looked at her with curiosity now, not ridicule. Others looked away entirely. She took her seat, opened her folder, smoothed the same crease again. During lunch, someone sat across from her without asking. The boy with braces, the one who'd spoken up. "Hey," he said awkwardly, "are you okay?" Mia nodded, "Yeah." He hesitated. "My mom said what they did was messed up." Mia didn't know how to respond to that, so she didn't. Silence wasn't rejection, it was caution. "That was your mom?" he asked, "the one in the hallway?" "Yes." He nodded slowly. "She's intense." Mia almost smiled. By the end of the week, the administration had acted. Meetings, apologies, consequences delivered quietly without spectacle. The parents involved stopped showing up in clusters. The boy who'd kicked her avoided her entirely. Justice hadn't been loud. It had been precise. Rowan didn't return to base right away. She took leave she hadn't planned to use, not because Mia asked, because she knew. They cooked together that weekend. Simple meals, no rush. Rowan corrected Mia's knife grip gently. Muscle memory passed down not for combat but for safety. "You don't have to be hard to be strong," Rowan said casually, like she was commenting on the weather. Mia nodded. She was starting to understand that lesson lived in moments like this, not lectures. On Sunday evening, Mia found Rowan in the garage checking gear she hadn't unpacked yet. Bags stayed ready in their house, always. "Are you going away again?" Mia asked. Rowan didn't lie, soon. Mia leaned against the workbench. "Do you ever get tired?" Rowan paused, then smiled faintly. "Yes." "Then why do you keep doing it?" Rowan looked at her daughter for a long moment. "Because some things don't get better on their own," she said. "Someone has to stand where it's uncomfortable." Mia thought about the hallway, about the moment everyone else had looked away. "I stood," she said quietly. Rowan nodded. "You did." That night, as Rowan packed, Mia sat on the floor nearby, pretending to read while watching every movement. She memorized the way her mother folded clothes, the way she checked pockets twice, the way she moved like the world could change at any second and she'd be ready. "Mia," Rowan said suddenly. "Yes." "You don't have to be like me." Mia looked up. "I know." A pause. "But I can be," she added. Rowan smiled then, not proud, not worried, just aware. At school the following week, a substitute teacher asked everyone to introduce their families again. A different assignment, a different tone. When it was Mia's turn, she stood. "My mom serves in the Navy," she said. Nothing more. No one laughed. No one questioned. She sat back down, heart steady. Because this time, she didn't need anyone to believe her. She believed herself. And sometimes, that's the moment a child stops surviving the world and starts standing in it. What happens when the noise fades, but the lesson refuses to stay quiet? The morning Rowan left again, Mia stood in the doorway pretending she wasn't watching. She knew the rhythm now, the careful movements, the last-minute checks, the pause before the door like her mother was memorizing the shape of the house. Rowan never lingered. Lingering made departures heavier than they needed to be. "You'll eat breakfast," Rowan said, slinging the bag over her shoulder. "I will," Mia replied. "And you'll walk with Mrs. Henson if it's dark." "I know." Rowan crouched, eye level now. "If anything feels wrong." "I'll tell someone," Mia finished. Rowan nodded once, approval without praise. Then she stood, hesitated just a fraction longer than usual, and pressed her forehead gently to Mia's. "Be kind," she said, "but don't be small." The door closed softly behind her. The house felt bigger after that, not emptier, just quieter in a way that forced thoughts to speak louder. At school, the incident had become something people referenced without nomming. Teachers used phrases like recent events and community expectations. Posters appeared in hallways. Assemblies were scheduled. Adults attempted repair the way adults always did, structurally, visibly, carefully avoiding the uncomfortable core. Mia noticed. She noticed which apologies came with eye contact and which came with excuses. She noticed who suddenly smiled too much and who still couldn't quite meet her gaze. She noticed that strength, once revealed, made people uncertain how to behave around it. Her shin healed slowly. Yellow faded to green, then to nothing, but the memory lingered longer. One afternoon, during group work, a girl named Hannah spoke up when a boy dismissed Mia's idea without listening. She wasn't done, Hannah said. The boy rolled his eyes but backed off. Mia felt something warm in her chest, not triumph, recognition. Later Hannah leaned over. Your mom, she's scary, she whispered. Mia shrugged, she's calm. That answer surprised even her. The counselor called Mia in near the end of the week. The office smelled like lavender and paper. How are you feeling? The counselor asked gently. Mia considered the question. It felt bigger than it looked. I feel taller, she said finally. The counselor smiled softly. That makes sense. Mia frowned. Is that bad? No, she said. It means you found your footing. At home, Rowan checked in when she could. Short calls. No details, just presence. You good? Rowan asked one night. Yes, Mia said. Tell me something boring. Mia smiled. We had meatloaf. Rowan exhaled. Good. The call ended, but the reassurance lingered. Weeks passed. The school settled into routine again. People grew comfortable. Memories dulled. But something underneath had shifted, subtle but permanent. One afternoon during gym, a boy tripped another kid intentionally. Laughter erupted. It wasn't cruel the way it had been before, but it was careless. Mia watched the fallen kid hesitate, deciding whether to stand or shrink. Knock it off, she said, not loud, just clear. The laughter stopped. The gym teacher turned too late to see who'd spoken, but the moment held anyway. Mia helped the kid up. No one argued. That surprised her. That night she wrote in her notebook, not homework, just thoughts she didn't have words for yet. Strength isn't loud. It's not muscles or shouting. It's standing when it's easier not to. She closed the notebook, heart steady. Rowan came home 2 days later. No fanfare, no announcement, just the sound of the door opening while Mia was doing homework. She looked up. Rowan looked tired, not broken, just worn in a way that spoke of responsibility carried without complaint. You're back early, Mia said. Rowan nodded. I was needed here. Mia pretended to go back to her work, but Rowan caught the hesitation. Come here, she said. Mia crossed the room. Rowan wrapped her in a hug that lasted longer than usual, not tight, grounding. You okay? Rowan asked. Yes, Mia said. Then after a beat, I think so. Rowan smiled faintly. Good. Over dinner, Mia told her about Hannah, about the gym, about the notebook. Rowan listened without interruption. You didn't escalate, Rowan said. You intervened. Mia shrugged. It felt right. Rowan nodded. That's how you know. Later that night, Rowan sat on the edge of Mia's bed. People will test you, she said quietly. Not because you're weak, because they want to know where your line is. Mia stared at the ceiling. What if I don't know? You'll find it, Rowan said. And when you do, defend it without becoming cruel. Mia turned her head. Is that hard? Rowan smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Every day. The next month, the PTA meeting was rescheduled. Mia didn't want to go, not because she was afraid, because she was tired. You don't have to, Rowan said. I think I do, Mia replied. The multi-purpose room looked the same. Chairs, coffee, name tags, but the atmosphere was different, quieter, careful. When Mia entered, a few parents nodded. Some smiled awkwardly, none laughed. The teacher spoke about unity, about respect, about listening. Mia listened, but she didn't cling to the words. She watched behavior instead. At the end of the meeting, one of the Marine fathers approached them, not the one who'd laughed first, another. "I was wrong," he said stiffly, "about everything." Rowan nodded once, "Then do better." He swallowed, "We will." They left without further conversation. In the parking lot, Mia looked up. "You didn't forgive him." Rowan unlocked the car. "Forgiveness isn't a transaction." Mia thought about that all the way home. Spring came slowly, then all at once, trees bloomed, days stretched longer, the school year edged toward its end. Mia grew into herself in small ways. She spoke when it mattered. She listened when it didn't. She learned the difference. One afternoon, she found the anti-bullying poster had been replaced. New words, new font. She stared at it for a moment. Then she walked past. Because she'd learned something the posters never taught. Respect isn't enforced by signs. It's modeled. And sometimes, the strongest example a child ever sees isn't someone winning a fight. It's someone choosing restraint, precision, and dignity when cruelty expects chaos. That lesson stayed with her. Quiet, permanent. Like a scar that didn't hurt anymore, but reminded her who she was becoming. When the world finally goes quiet, what part of you keeps listening? Summer arrived without ceremony. No announcements, no warnings, just heat rising off sidewalks and the slow disappearance of routines that had once felt immovable. School let out early that last day, backpacks lighter than they'd been all year. Mia walked home instead of taking the bus. She needed the space. The air smelled like cut grass and asphalt, familiar and grounding. The incident at the school had stopped being a story people told. It lived now in glances, in caution, in the way certain parents no longer spoke as loudly as they used to. Time had smoothed the edges, but it hadn't erased the lesson. It had simply buried it where it could do its work quietly. Rowan noticed the change in her daughter before Mia ever mentioned it. The way she moved through rooms with a little more certainty. The way she no longer shrank when someone interrupted her. Strength had settled into her bones, not dramatically, but permanently. They spent more time together that summer. Not because Rowan had more leave she didn't, but because when she was home she was fully there. No half attention, no phone glances. Presence mattered more than duration. One evening, they sat on the back steps, watching fireflies blink in and out of existence. Mia traced patterns on the wood with her finger. "Do people ever change?" Mia asked suddenly. Rowan leaned back on her hands. "Some do." "What about the ones who don't?" Rowan considered. "They still reveal who they are." Mia nodded. That answer felt complete. A few weeks later, the neighborhood held a block party. Folding tables, paper plates, forced cheer. Rowan didn't want to go. Mia insisted. "It's normal," Mia said. "We should be normal." Rowan smiled faintly. "Normal's overrated." But they went. People greeted them carefully at first, as if unsure what version of Rowan Calder they were meeting, the quiet mother or the woman from the hallway. Rowan didn't perform either. She just existed. Halfway through the evening, a man approached with his daughter. The girl hovered behind him, nervous. "This is Lily," he said. "She goes to Mia's school." The girl looked at Mia. "I'm sorry," she said quickly. "I laughed that day." Mia didn't answer right away. She felt Rowan's presence beside her, steady, non-intrusive. "Thank you for saying that," Mia said finally. The girl exhaled, relief visible. After they walked away, Mia glanced up. "Was that okay?" Rowan nodded. "You didn't owe her forgiveness. You offered acknowledgement. That's different." Mia liked that distinction. Later that night, as music drifted and conversations blurred, Rowan noticed something else. Parents watching Mia not with pity but with respect. That shift mattered. It meant the narrative had changed, not because of fear, but because of example. A week later, Rowan got orders. Not sudden, not unexpected, just unavoidable. She told Mia at the kitchen table, voice even, coffee untouched. I'll be gone a while. Mia didn't flinch. She learned not to. How long? Long enough. Mia nodded, then surprised herself by asking, "Are you scared?" Rowan met her gaze. Sometimes. That honesty meant more than reassurance ever could. The night before Rowan left, they sat in the garage again. Gear laid out, familiar ritual. "You know," Mia said, "they used to think you weren't real." Rowan smiled faintly. "Some still do." "Does that bother you?" Rowan shook her head. "No, it keeps me honest." Mia considered that. "I think I get it now." "Get what?" "You don't need people to see you to exist." Rowan paused, then nodded. "Exactly." After Rowan left, the house returned to its quieter rhythm. Mia adjusted. She always did. She handled chores. She checked in with neighbors. She learned independence the way children in military families often did, gradually, without being asked. One afternoon, she volunteered at the local library, sorting books, helping younger kids with reading, small things. A boy struggled with a word and grew frustrated. "I'm bad at this," he muttered. Mia shook her head. "You're just early." The words surprised her. They felt inherited. At school orientation for the next grade, a teacher asked students to introduce themselves with one interesting fact. When it was Mia's turn, she stood. "My mom serves in the Navy," she said. She stopped there. No challenge came. She sat down, heart steady. Later, Hannah leaned over. "You could have said more." Mia shrugged. "I didn't need to." That night, Mia wrote again in her notebook. "Strength isn't about proving anything. It's about knowing when you don't have to." Weeks passed. Rowan checked in when she could, short messages, sometimes just a word here. Mia replied with one of her own, "Okay." They didn't need more. One evening, Mia stood in the hallway where the poster used to be. The space felt smaller now, or maybe she'd grown. She closed her eyes briefly, remembering the fear, the pain, the moment everything changed. Not because someone fought, because someone arrived. She realized then that resilience wasn't something you waited for. It was something you practiced. Every day. Quietly. And when Rowan finally came home again, months later, Mia hugged her without hesitation. No words, no explanations. Just presence. Because by then, they both understood something deeply true. Power doesn't announce itself. It endures. And when it's real, it teaches others how to stand, long after the moment has passed. What does it mean to come home when the person waiting for you is no longer the same child you left? Rowan noticed it the moment she stepped through the door. Not the way Mia had grown taller, that was expected. Not the way her voice had settled into a steadier register. It was subtler than that. It was in how Mia stood, feet planted, shoulders relaxed, present without performing. Rowan set her bag down slowly, as if sudden movement might disturb something delicate and newly formed. "You're back," Mia said. "Yes," Rowan replied. They hugged, and this time it wasn't the desperate clutch of reunion or the relief of survival. It was balanced, mutual, two people meeting again, not one rescuing the other. Dinner was quiet, comfortable. Mia talked about school projects, about Hannah transferring to another class, about the library volunteer work she'd kept up with even after summer ended. Rowan listened, noticing the way Mia told stories now, not seeking approval, not minimizing herself. After dishes were done, they sat on the couch. The house hummed softly around them. "Do you remember the hallway?" Mia asked suddenly. Rowan didn't answer right away. "Yes." "I think about it sometimes," Mia said. "Not the kick, not even the yelling." "What then?" "The moment before you walked in," Mia said. "When I thought, this is it. No one's coming." Rowan's chest tightened, but she kept her voice steady. "What do you think now?" Mia considered. "I think even if you hadn't come, something would have still changed." Rowan turned to her fully. What do you mean? I didn't lie, Mia said. I didn't disappear, I stayed me. That mattered. Rowan nodded slowly. It did. The next week the school invited Rowan to speak at a closed session. Not an assembly, no audience, just staff. Rowan didn't want to go, she never did. But Mia said, you should. So she did. Rowan didn't talk about heroism. She didn't talk about service. She talked about restraint, about power misused, about how children learned more from what adults allowed than what they punished. She spoke plainly, briefly. And when she finished, the room stayed quiet longer than was comfortable. That was enough. Outside, Mia waited by the flagpole. She didn't ask how it went. Rowan didn't explain. They walked home together. Fall settled in, leaves changed, the world moved forward. One afternoon, Mia came home unusually quiet. She set her backpack down carefully. Something happened? Rowan asked. Mia nodded. A girl in my class, her dad drinks, people make jokes. Rowan waited. They were laughing, Mia continued. She didn't say anything. And you? Rowan asked. I sat with her, Mia said. Didn't say much. Rowan nodded. Good. Mia frowned. Is that enough? Rowan thought for a moment. Sometimes the bravest thing isn't confrontation, she said. It's refusing to leave someone alone in their worst moment. Mia absorbed that. Later that year, Mia was chosen to represent her class at a student council forum. She almost said no. Old instincts tugged at her. Rowan didn't push. Mia said yes anyway. When she spoke, she didn't mention herself. She talked about listening, about how silence could either protect or harm depending on who controlled it. The room listened. Rowan watched from the back, unseen. That night Mia found the old folder in her drawer, the one with the crease, the one she'd smoothed 100 times. She held it for a long moment. Then she recycled it. Spring returned. On the anniversary of the incident, though no one else remembered the date, Mia walked past the multi-purpose room. The door was open, chairs stacked, empty. She paused. Not because it hurt. Because it didn't. That realization surprised her. At home, Rowan was packing again, not for deployment, for retirement paperwork. I'm thinking of stepping back, Rowan said quietly. Mia looked up. Really? Yes. Why? Rowan met her eyes. Because I think you're ready. Mia smiled. For what? Rowan returned the smile. For your own strength. The ceremony was small. No speeches, no applause, just signatures and quiet acknowledgments. Rowan came home without the weight she'd carried for decades. They planted a tree in the backyard that afternoon. A simple thing, maple. Mia pressed dirt around the roots. What if it doesn't grow? She asked. Rowan shrugged. Then we'll have learned something. But what if it does? Rowan smiled. Then it'll stand long after we forget why we planted it. Years later, Mia would think about that tree. She would think about a hallway and a bruise, and a truth spoken without armor. She would think about how strength didn't arrive as a roar, it arrived as presence. She would remember that dignity wasn't loud. It didn't demand belief. It didn't ask for permission. It simply acted. And when the world tried to make her small, she would stand, not because someone taught her how to fight, but because someone showed her how to be unmovable. Sometimes the greatest legacy isn't power passed down. It's courage awakened. Quietly, at exactly the moment it's needed most.